Okay, so for today we will discuss about object life cycle and what are the different states of the object in Hibernate. So the object is nothing but the persistent object which we generally refer in our examples. Student is our object. Okay, this object will differ from one state to another state, and we can even have into a closed state also. Means like even in generally when you in Java, when you create a new object, it is kind of a creating, or you will be created one new object. When you uh, destroy it by using garbage collector or something like the object will not be there. That it's kind of a dead state. Okay, similarly in Hibernate, we have some concept different. There are different states for uh, our objects. Okay, uh, I'll tell you what are the states we have. There are three major states: transient state, persistent state, and detached state. These are the three states we have. On top of that, there is a one more state. It is nothing but instantiation state is nothing but creating object. I will just take you through these lines, and then I will explain the image how it looks like. Instantiation state is an instance of a persistence class, can be in one of the three different states. So this instantiation state means like this object can be any one of these states, that is transient state, persistent state, and detached states. The states are defined in relations to the persistent context. Based on the persistent context, the states will differ. Okay, Hibernate session object is Hibernate session object is persistent context, and three different states are as follows. I will tell you. Session is nothing but the persistent context which we are referring. Based on the session, based on the session which we have, these three states will differ. So what are the three states we have? One is the transient state, persistent state, and detached state. What is transient state? The instance is not associated with any persistent context. When you see persistent context is nothing but a session. Okay, the instance is not associated with any persistent context. It has no persistent identity or primary key value. So as long as it is not in a session, as long as it is not in a session, your object is not will not have any primary key, and that means it will not have any identity, persistent identity. Okay, that is the in transient state. The second state is a persistent state where we will be having the object inside the session. The instance is currently associated with a persistent context. It has a persistent identity. That means a primary key will be assigned to that one and can have a corresponding row in the database. It will be having a relevant row in the database for a particular persistent context. Okay. For a particular context, the Hibernate guarantees that persistent identity is equivalent to Java identity in relation to the in-memory location of the object. So it will have one in-memory identity, that is nothing but hashes we talk about. Okay, that will be there for one particular what do you say um, is kind of ID for that object. Okay, hash code or something like that one it will have. So when you have the object inside inside session, it is a persistent state. The last one is a detached state where your object is out of session. Scope will be out of session now. Detached state, the instance was once associated with a persistent context, but the context was closed. That means session was closed, or the instance was serialized to another process. Okay, this instance is kept in a different process. It has a persistent identity and can have a corresponding row in the database. For detached instances, the Hibernate does not guarantee the relationship between persistent identity and Java identity. Persistent identity and Java identity. Java identity is nothing but a kind of a hash code, and persistent identity is nothing but some kind of primary key. Okay, this relation will not have in between these two. That is a problem. So I will just explain them all three states of object. Okay. Yeah. I will show. I will show. If you see our program, I'll just maximize it. See our program, line number 18 and line number now it is 19. 18 and 19. We have created two objects. We have instantiated two objects. Right. These two objects are outside of session. Session is not begin yet. Okay. The session is begin here. So these two objects are in transient state. Got it right? The It is a state a student and a student. Till this point, these two objects are transient state. From line number 25 onwards, the student object is persistent state. That is what it is. I was telling 1 second. See. It's outside of this one. If I say I'm not closing the session now. Okay. Okay, I'm closing the session now. If I say this one now, object here after closing the session, so it will. Okay, I will explain one time. So this is a instantiation state. I will explain the code flow and tell you the three steps of that one life cycle. Here it is a transient state. These two objects, and these two objects, once you create a session, okay, once you begin the session and once you start using, till this point, line number 24, you have not used student. Okay, that means like it is not yet in a persistent state. Once you start using this one object, okay, it will be created one primary key for that, for your object, for the relevant database, and it will have, I will tell you, persistent identity. One identity will be there instant, like say primary key. I will tell you primary key and Java identity. These two will be mapping. Some kind of relation will be in this two, primary key and Java identity. Persistent key. Okay, this identity and Java identity will have some relation until unless you close the session till this point. That means this for this line, still line number 38, your object is in persistent state. As soon as you close this one, okay, you are detached. You are detached means you are kept your object from outside of your session. Session is closed. Now the student, what is the state of student is? What is the state of student is detached. Okay, detached. What is detached mean? It has a primary key. Okay. In fact, it has a primary identity, assistant identity, and in fact, the student has a Java identity, but there is no relation between Java identity ID and persistent ID. You got it now, right? Three states. Student, what is that? Instantiation. So this is what is the three states of this one. Till this point, your object is, whenever you create one object, it will be like this. So these chances of using, I will tell you here. I want to save session. I will not student dot student dot. Hope you are understanding this three steps. Why, what is the life cycle the object will go through work. Okay, you the student. I'm just trying to do some operation with this one. Let's say start set course. I'm trying to update the course here. For Hibernate to J2A will. Okay, and let's say I'm not saving it this point. That means like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. You don't get confused with this line. I just wanted to show you like we are not doing any operation there, and I want to update this one outside of session. Then what is the state of this one? You can still do that one, but it is a kind of outside of your session. Got it right? Don't get confused. One step is transient state where you will be initializing your object. You have not yet started that object inside the session. And the second step is persistent state where you will be using your object inside session. Okay, inside session you are using your object, student object here, student2 object here. This is called a persistent state. How it is identified, like here, as soon as you entered to a session and started using your object, it will create a primary key for that one. We are not giving any primary keys for this one, right? It will create a identity, primary identity for your object, and the object, as soon as created one object, it will always have one hash code. Okay, these two will be in a relation. These two will have some kind of identity to each other. And as soon as you close that session in line number 39, okay, this relation will close. Relation between this normal object Java identity and persistent identity. But your object will still exist, and it will have both persistent identity as well as a Java identity. You got it right? And it will have the row in a database as well if you have already saved. So I will just open this one. So this is what it is telling about. Transient state is this one. When you save or update any operations, you will do it. That means like you are in a persistent state. Okay, then save or update or log update. Once you're done with that one, right? This object will go into detached state. After detached state, what can happen? Okay, it can happen like you can collect your garbage collector can take your object if you're not using. Okay, and there is something else is there which from the persistent state you can say like a evict or something. So you can again load that object. You don't get confused with this diagram completely. Just try to understand that. First thing, you will have transient state as an initialization one. Okay, then you will have a persistent state where you will be using it for a different operation, that is inside a session. This diagram is not completely clear. Okay, just downloaded from Google now, just now. Transient state and persistent state and detached state. So once you have this object, it is eligible for garbage collector. It can take it, or even you can reload that object whenever you require. Like if you detached also after persistent, okay, and you can reuse that same object. I will tell you how to do that. So I have closed this object. Okay, session 1, session 2 is closed now. What I can do, I will open another session. I will load the again begin the I will again begin one more session. You can you are not saving, right? You have to call any one of these methods. To call those methods, you need to have session on. I understood. See, so this is closed here. Line number 13, and we have closed here, right? You want to set like a course update, like a J2E course. So you want to save it, right? You want to persist. How you will persist? You will use the session object again. So for that session you require, right? Yeah, correct. Let me, without that, it will throw you exception. You will see the exception what it will throw. Okay. Session dot save. Okay. Student. It will say closed session is closed. Object is not in a persistent state. We'll see it. And there was a problem yesterday we were seeing was Hibernate mapping file was not allowing to have duplicate courses. That I will try to fix. Not allowable, not allowable. It's actually code, right? Not nullable. I think I didn't. It should work actually. Let's see. Configuration file I will use create instead of that. Okay, I'm just trying to. See, it is throwing error saying that session is closed. You got it, right? It will like a purely detached, I will tell you. It is like a purely Java object now. It's a normal object. Again, you want to use it object, okay? You have to assign it to a session again. Something like you have to begin one more session. Something like you have to begin one more session and make use of the same object. Don't worry about it. When you create this object, you have one instance for this one, and you'll have one identity hash code for that one. So that remains same. Okay. So that's three states of object we'll be having. Okay, that's all about object state. And what we can do now is I want to create one more class here to persist. Okay, what we can do, we have an out tab. Okay, what is, so next step will be component mapping. We'll just explain the concept. If we have time, we will start tomorrow. If you don't have time, I will try to explain the concept. Mm. So you're clear about that one? Okay. These three states of object. Okay. Then I will take you through the persistent class. Okay. What is persistent class and what all things will be there. Okay. How it will work. Okay. Documentation only. Persistent class is nothing but our normal POSO class. Okay. But it should have some basic rules and rules like should be implementing what is that serializable interface, and then you should have one default constructor, and then you'll be having all the mutators and getters and setters. And if you want to have some sorting touching on your objects, you need to have the equals as code implemented on them and two strings also implemented on them. Okay, this image, if you see this document, it is the one of the persistent class. Okay, if you just quickly go through this one, the first thing is identifier properties. What are the properties required for your property, your persistent class or your table? Nothing but is going to be table columns in your case. Okay, and the second one is no argument constructor. This is important. This will be used internally by Hibernate to create your object, persistent object. That is public event user, right? There is no argument constructor. You will not have any arguments. The third step you do is the getters and setters. That's a beans you will use it for setting some properties and getting some property. So these are the three things you will be having majorly. On top of that, you can even implement serializable data. So Hibernate mapping file we have already seen, and we quickly go through what is Hibernate mapping, how it looks like, what are the different properties. So if you see that first line, that is a DTD, it's provided by Hibernate. It will vary version to version, different versions it will vary. And then the second one is like a class element. This class element is a complete package name we will be giving and with a class name. Package name with a relevant path name will give and the class name will give. And the equivalent class name you have to give it. So my class name is event here. In the table name I want to give event or something. Event table you can give event table also. So you can even specify a schema names by using catalog option. I will tell you here. In our case, this is a Hibernate mapping file, okay, where we have the student as a class name, table as a student, and catalog I have given as a Hibernate underscore practice. This is nothing but my schema name, database schema name. So that is what it is. And the second thing is, third thing is the identifier mapping and generation. Identifier mapping and generation is here. See, we are using ID attribute, ID element, ID element. This element will generate you a. This is going to be a primary key for your table, okay? And the data type is like what type of data type your primary key is going to generate it. There are some generator classes provided by Hibernate. One of them is identity, assigned or sequence. All those things are there. Around 9 to 10 are there. We will discuss them. You have to specify which sequence you want to generate. For suppose if you are using a sequence generator, I want to generate my primary key 1, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, like that. It will generate. When it will give it for, it will generate the primary keys like in that sequence. Whatever sequence you define, you can do it. So you can even write your own algorithm to have generator classes also. Okay, this is the ID and this is the column name. We have student underscore ID column. Catalog is nothing but a schema. I will just open here, okay, in my MySQL database. I think I have opened wrong one. Yes, how to use this. Root user Hibernate underscore This is what I have given there. So this is my database schema. Okay. Show tables. So I want to create the table, student table inside this database. Okay, I will be having so many databases. I'll just show also databases. Bases. Show databases. These many databases are there. So ideally, what I was doing there is like a create table, okay, so and so name, then Hibernate underscore practice is dot student, like this, and create table. Table. Okay, Hibernate underscore practice student, and then I will give like normal like this one. This is what it is. Dot to this is a schema name. I'm just adding. It is not mandatory. The best practice. Sometimes it will not identify which schema to take. Okay, since we are giving here in a proper way, the Hibernate schema name and all should not have any problem, but sometimes it makes problem. So it is best practice to use which schema you are using. Okay, and that is nothing but catalog. Yeah, it's a database name, correct. See, this is the database name I'm taking. Mm. Then we have just discussed about the identity. It's a primary key and generator class we have seen, and property names in our Java. This poser, this persistent class, we have ID, title, name, first name, last name, course. All these are the attributes. So we will be having those attributes in a property tags. Property name equal to this one. Type of this is nothing but all these are string types. If it is integer type, you have to specify like a integer type, like this type you are leaving. So column name will be the name which you want to have in a database. You give column name. Length and restrictions, whatever restrictions you want to have on a table, okay, you can give. Just I wanted to have first name as a not nullable column, so I just gave not nullable equal to true. So you have to give this attribute whenever. See, in the student.app.java, I was trying, one second. Okay, this one first name was not nullable, right? I will not store the not first name. What it will tell is it will throw the error saying that it should be a, see, it is saying not nullable property references a null. This means you are trying to put the null in a not nullable property. First name is a not nullable. So if you specify that one, where from the front end or somewhere in the business logic, someone is trying to put nulls in that column, it will not allow you to put that columns as a null column. Okay, that is why you can have the restriction on here itself in a mapping file. Okay, length also 20, you can give whatever length you want to. So there are so many restrictions for columns you can apply whenever you require those restrictions. So similarly, we have other properties, first name, last name, and course is just like this one. So this is nothing but the same one. This we will discuss in the next programs. This is like a association mappings, unidirectional, bidirectional, many-to-many associations. We'll see why they have defined here is like I just take you in this example. We have private persons as a set of persons we have. So this kind of scenarios we will discuss later. You just ignore it now. This is what is all about Hibernate mapping file and persistent class. So how the property mapping is like this one, property name equal to title, not nullable. This we already seen. You should not be having much confusion on this. The same thing. So on the Hibernate configuration, what are the important things you should have? Configuration is nothing but where you will be giving the database details and all. CFG file. So what are the important things you should have? Each database as a dialect. Dialect is nothing but what data type you are using, what company's database you are using. Is it a Maven? Not Maven. I'm sorry. Is it a MySQL, Oracle, DBT, DB2, whatever it is, MongoDB, whatever you are using, you can specify the dialect. Okay, Hibernate.dialect is the property you have to specify. If you see in the example, we have Hibernate.dialect is the property which is specifying org.hibernate.dialect.mysql dialect. Okay, this is the dialect you are using. Okay, there are some more properties you have to have a must and should. That is like a JDBC driver class, which drivers you are using for driver class. Even for different dialects, you will have different drivers. Type 1, type 2, type 3 we have seen in JDBC concept, right? This kind of different driver classes you will have. So you should be using specific driver class and you should specify that jar. Okay. Connection URL is nothing but uh, connection URL, username and password. Connection URL is nothing but the complete database server information and with the port number and which schema you are getting connected to. So here if you see JDBC colon MySQL and localhost till this point your server information, and this is your server port. By default MySQL port is 3306 and this one is the my schema which I want to connect. And the hibernate.connection.username, hibernate.connection.password, both are username password properties. You have to give the values. I am using root and root as a username and password for my MySQL. That is all about configuration file. There are few more things. These are the most important. Matlab, these things you should be giving. Must and should properties. These are minimum you have to give. If you don't give this show SQL and SBM to DDL, it will still work. If you don't give this three also, it will still work. Okay, this show SQL, what it will do, it will when you execute your program, it is trying to print this one, right? I'll just show that one. I'll just revert it. Revert it. I'm trying to run it. See, it is printing that SQL statements here. It is saying that student title insert into Hibernate underscore practice. This is my schema. So this is how I am trying to insert in that. I've given a catalog, right? This is how it is inserting into student. Okay, insert into Hibernate practice Hibernate underscore practice the student. Student title, student name. This is the values it is taking it. Okay, if I can mention this one configuration file, show SQL as a false. Okay, those logs will not come. See, no logs. No logs. Still, you can see the database got inserted. That is for logging purpose. That's the optional one I'm talking about. Okay. Just select store from student. Okay, it got inserted two records like this. You can use it if you want to see what is happening. If you are not understanding what all the queries got executed, what all the things are inserted, what are the objects are inserted, right? Just use it. So there is other property which we will be discussing like SBM to DDL dot auto. This property is to create the table automatically without our manipulation. Like if I mention this one right now, if I comment this line, if I try to run, since there is already table, it may insert it. If I drop the table, it will not insert. So now it is inserted. Okay. Drop student. What is the syntax? Drop table student. Okay, there is no table in the this schema now. Okay, show tables I will do. Show tables. So there is no student now. Now I'll try to execute this one. It will show me exception saying that you don't have table. See, the Hibernate underscore practice dot student does not exist. This table is not exist. Okay, this is the error. It will get could not insert your record student into the database. The reason why it is the cause it is selling is okay. There is no table inside your this Hibernate underscore practice schema. It is that is the problem. So to create it automatically, these scenarios, what you will do, you'll go and create a table manually. Instead of creating tables manually, you just uncomment this line, okay, and run your application again. Will create it. It should have created with this table now. This student table is get created now. I'll just query this one. Student select star from student, and the two records got inserted. Okay, you got this one right? Yeah. You cannot do it again. I think like if always you better use update. Okay, if you use update, what will happen? If it is there already, if your table is already there, okay, update. I will just drop this table now again. Correct. I don't think we can do this one in this place. I'm not exactly sure, but I have not never seen that. But it is not possible. Oh, that's what am I thinking. One table, yeah, because we are doing it in a scenarios we will get. Actually, in the general real life, you will not use this property. Production and all, you will not do this one because the programmer might write some different programs, different mistakes will be there. Okay, so whatever he defines in this one, right, it will go. Whatever he defines in the mapping file, same thing will go. If it is not tested properly or something, your tables will be excluded. So what they will do, they will create the database schemas first, database tables and structures, and they will try to have the mapping like this. Mostly, yeah, that's a good practice. Okay. Actually, in the production and all, they will not use this property. But for developing and all, this is the best one. Developers may not be knowing more things about table creation and all. Instead of wasting time in the database concept, they will just use this one to create the DB. Okay. But in the production, means like in the real-time scenarios, real projects, when you're deploying into the other servers and all, they will not use this property. Okay. This is only for developers purpose, mostly. Okay. So that is another property we just discussed, but these are the important must-have properties. JDBC drivers connection and so on. So let's see what is there in the session factory interface we have seen yesterday. Session interface also we have seen yesterday. Instance states we just have discussed. The session interface. Okay, that's all about theoretical part. Okay, we have another 10 minutes. What I can do, I will just get started with one concept. that is Hibernate underscore mappings underscore component mapping. So mapping, what is the mapping? I will just explain this. So let's say I have one class. Let's say our student only. Okay. Take box. Okay, I have a class student. In that you have property int id string name. Okay, and I have another property. I want to have address. So I will say for suppose string. I will not write it now. I will just do it again. What else? I have another class address. Okay, what is that? Class address. So let's say address is having some pin code or something. Int pin, I will say pin. Let's say state string state. Okay, string. Okay, this kind of properties you can have in address, right? These are the valid properties, right? If you see, okay. I want to have two addresses here again. In the student can have different addresses. I mean to say, if you can have present address or permanent address, two addresses. Like if student is coming from different locations, okay, wherever he's staying, it will be like his present address. So wherever his normal actual address, birthplace, will be like a permanent address. So I want to give two information in the student information, student list. Whenever I am trying to insert the student data into student database table, I want to have these two information saying that I want to have the student address. In the student address, I want to have two properties. One is like a present address, another one is a permanent address. How you will do it? Just think of it. How I am going to store the student object table. How I am going to update the student object. So instead of writing one thing I can do is like I can write something kind of like this. I can write something kind of int pin, okay, present pin int pin permanent, okay, pin like this. You can have so many attributes in this one, like two attributes, present attribute, present pin, permanent pin, like this you can write it. So to observe this one, this is not a good practice, right? You will end up with having so many properties in your student. So for that purpose, what I did is like I have created one class called address. Okay, in the address I have created property called pin, state, and country. I have divided into different. I have had more general properties which is available, which will be available in a address. So now what I can do? Now what I can do? I can call one address. Okay, address class. Data type is address. Address. Okay, present ADD. This is my attribute name. And I can add one more address. Okay. Permanent address. So like this, I can add it, right? This is valid. Now, if you see the student, you have ID, student name, and address. Two times you have address. One address for present address, another address for permanent address. So earlier scenario, if you see, you will have one table, student table, where you can have a number of record lines. You will end up before having this address class, right? You will end up having a permanent address, present address, permanent pin, present pin, like this. So many columns will grow. Now you will not have that kind of one. You will have one more table called address table. Okay, where you will have only address columns, address properties. Okay, address properties like a pin. Okay, string pin address is a pin code, and state, and all those columns you will have in an address. So whenever I'm going to insert ID, name, and address one, address two, I will insert ID and name here. Whenever I want to save address one, I will just say address one here. That primary key and foreign key relation will maintain. There are a component mapping concept to Hibernate how to do this kind of scenarios. You just forget about these two lines. You just think about this one for now. Okay. But tomorrow I will show the database concept how we'll do it. So this is the what we are going to work for tomorrow in the component mapping. Hope you understood the concept what we are trying to explain. This is a component mapping actually. Yeah, this we will see how we are going to achieve using Hibernate. Till now we have seen only adding only one student table, plain student table, which has only some general properties. From tomorrow we will see the component mapping. How we will be adding these different addresses into the table. Okay, that is what. Yeah. We will not do, it's kind of that one only. I will show there are different types, different ways to do that one. I will show that one. There is some tricky is there in the Hibernate to provide some concept called component mapping concept. We will discuss that tomorrow. In the mapping file, we have to manage that one. The mapping file, what we are doing, which is a plain one, so property you are giving. If I want to have address property, what you will give now? You cannot give address like just a property address if you give. What about a pin code? What about pin code, state, and all those values? How will you? That's a complex, right? You have to think about that one. So this concept we will discuss tomorrow. It will take time to complete it if it is not possible today. Okay. Yeah. This document, right? Yeah, I will mail. I will mail you. Yeah. Thank you. Bye. Mm.